I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon, I just woke up, and I read the tweets. I read everything that was talked about right now, and a lot of you guys might not be on Twitter, and that's perfectly fine, so I'm here, just bringing it out there. I just wanted to talk about these tweets. And again, just like the Linden and Aquilini video, I am not saying that anything is 100% fact. I'm not saying that anything is 100% lie either. I'm just taking these tweets, bringing them up, and using them as discussion points, because these tweets are Benning quotes, so there should, and I say should because that's probably the best word here, there should be an underlying sense of truth. I'm not saying that there is an underlying sense of truth, I'm saying that there should be. So, without further ado, let's talk about these tweets. And I'm using Canucks Mobile's tweets, because these tweets are in full. Rick Dhaliwal did tweet about these quotes a little bit as well, but his quotes were a little bit cut off, and Canucks Mobile just in turn has a bit more beef to what he's put out there. So this all started from Ian McIntyre, because he put on the media that several people close to Linden confirmed to Sportsnet that Linden does indeed feel angry and betrayed by Jim Benning. And this one tweet, I read it, it was the first one I read while scrolling through Twitter on my phone, lying down on my side in my bed, and I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then some people in the replies were saying, yeah, you know, in his I'm leaving letter, he didn't say thank you to the Aquilinis or Benning. And I actually looked back on Trevor Linden's goodbye letter on Canucks.com, and indeed, he did not say anything about those two individuals. And so, apparently, according to Ian McIntyre, people close to Linden have been confirming a lot of people's reading in between the lines here, and confirming the fact that, apparently, Linden does feel betrayed. And this is weird, because I think Adam Wilde said this on the podcast, and I think the hockey guy might have said this as well, we will not know this full story for a very long time. And I think for me personally, until the Vancouver Canucks win the Stanley Cup, we will not know all the details about this. Because there's much to infer about Linden's apparent feelings towards Jim Benning. Let's continue. Benning was brought in to talk about this, and Benning on betraying Linden, the first tweet out of 3. There's no way I could do that. Trevor was my boss. I had no part of this decision. I've worked hard in this business for 27 years, and if you talk to people from other teams, I'm an honest, straightforward guy. I work hard. Okay, let's kind of stray away from the last sentence or two from that quote, because that's kind of okay, but Benning says, nah, I didn't do that. I didn't betray Linden, he was my boss. I couldn't have done that. Alright, let's continue with the Benning quotes here. I don't know what happened between Trevor and the ownership, and it's not my place to ask. I've got a job to do building this hockey team. I've never been into politics. I have a hard enough time finding a defenseman who can help our power play. I don't have time for that. Jim Benning low-key took a shot at himself in this one quote here, and I don't know, you could hear me smiling right now. You can sort of hear the smile, because this really heavily implies that everything happened between Trevor and the ownership. The first sentence, I don't know what happened between Trevor and the ownership, and it's not my place to ask. This implies everything. That the dream team of Benning was sorta good, but it was Linden and the ownership that butted heads. And that's why I made that video before, talking about some of the other people's perspectives on this, saying that Linden and Aquilini, they kinda did have a few things that they disagreed with, which led to this whole outfall. And of course, in response to this, there's a lot of people who are trying to label the sides. Was it Benning and the ownership, or was it Linden who wanted to rebuild? And there are many different perspectives that have come out over the past few days. The video that I made earlier talked about one perspective that had Linden as the guy who wanted the rebuild, but the Aquilinis as the guys who didn't want the rebuild. But Benning kinda addresses that in his next quote. We still have cap space. If we were thinking about making the playoffs next season, we'd have signed James Neal or David Perron. or someone like that. But we didn't. We signed Jay Beagle, Tim Schaller, and Antoine Roussel instead, but this quote really does get under my skin a little bit, and I think a lot of you guys can see why. Benning kinda says it outright. Very in between the lines, but not too in between the lines. Yeah, we're not thinking about making the playoffs. If we were thinking about that, we would have signed high-profile guys, but we didn't. And this is kind of a mixed message right here. I don't know what to think about this. At this point, I don't know what's real and what's not. I've just been presenting the tweets, but the more I read into this, the more I look into other perspectives, people saying, oh, Linden wanted the young guys to come in, or the Aquilinis wanted to make the playoffs, and then Benning says, yeah, we're not trying to make the playoffs, that's why we didn't go after high-profile guys. It's weird. And this story gets weirder and weirder as the days go on. And I know it's the off-season, which is why there isn't anything else to talk about, but this is really juicy, and I think a lot of people looking into this would have a big plethora of information that they would need to understand in order to comprehend the entire situation here. But for me personally, I'm just antiseptically showing you guys the tweets and talking about it. That's it. I'm not saying anything is right, I'm not saying anything is wrong, I'm not saying that anybody is true or lying. This is just what the tweets say. And from this point on, I have no idea what to expect. Things are really weird in Canucks off-season land. Hope you guys enjoyed this adventure, //Gaming, and bye.